But I think the reality of it is now, is this gravy train has run dry.
The comments that he'd made about the 2 rounds, etc., he would have won in 2 rounds, and I think that with the position he's in, he didn't need to do that.
Welcome to this week's edition of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. This is episode 10. We've got to double figures, Spence. Don't forget to keep liking and subscribing. Don't forget to keep leaving the questions in the comment section below. We've got lots to talk about, so let's get on with this week's show.
Just before we go there, Simon,
tell me, Spence.
I want to talk about Carl Froch.
My mate Carl Froch.
You're the favourite fighter of all time, is that correct?
Yes.
So I just got to say that's really one of my favourite fighters. Hey, how are you? Hey,
good, mate.
You're my favourite pundit.
You're one of my favourite fighters. I love watching you.
Mate, I don't get any selfies with people, but can I get on me?
Oh, of course you can.
I love it,
mate. Yeah. Are you going to try and parody me and ridicule me?
What was the
Spencer,
word?
If you get to hang about with you, you'd rather spend time with anyone. Matt Hancock, you're about as useful as a one-legged man in an arse-kicking competition. Right? So of course I'm going to gravitate towards Carl Froch. And by the way,
can we talk about your comments?
I love Carl Froch.
I recognise
love him as a boxer.
I recognise
love him as a pundit, and I think he's a really all-round decent fella.
So when is he coming on the show?
I hope soon. I hope that we're going to get a few people that have had a few things to say.
Well, I spoke to Mr. Robert Smith as well. I believe you did.
Oh, yes. I bumped into Mr. Robert Smith on Saturday evening, the boxing board of No Control, who was nice and contrite and agreed with me. And then I get to see a video from Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen, Gareth A. Davis, about how Robert didn't agree with me and I didn't know what I was talking about. So we're delighted to have him on here with us.
Okay, and when are we looking?
Don't know.
Hopefully the next couple of weeks.
But they're all mouth and trousers, aren't they? Frochie will come on, I suspect, because he likes what we're doing and he likes the view
he likes your comments towards him. So,
and I've also said things about Carl that isn't always complimentary, but I like him as a bloke. But going on to Robert Smith, he says he'll come on, but when it comes down to it, because he only likes people that agree with him. When you don't agree with them and you put him up on things, and all of a sudden you don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, look, that's the background to a busy week last week and a great event that we went to. But let's get into this week's show. Okay, Spence, I suppose there's only one place to start. The fight that we were all very enthused about and ultimately became even more enthused in the evening, which of course is the events at Manchester. Eubank Jr. versus Liam Smith. Wow was the expression I used on Saturday night. What was yours? What was your thought process?
Mine was exactly the same. You know, it was one of those weeks, Simon, that it was very strange. You saw the press conference. Some of the comments that were said there were very political and very personal.
Very silly.
Yeah, very silly. Yeah. I didn't know. I started to think, because I said Liam Smith all week, I was saying Smith's going to win. I thought he's going to win a razor-tight decision. I never saw it going inside the distance. Had it gone inside the distance, I thought if the fight was stopped, I would have gone Eubank's way for that. I never saw Smith stopping Eubank. I thought Eubank's size would carry him through, but wow, yeah. That's all. I was exactly the same as you. I mean, just when you thought Eubank was getting hold of the fight, he was the one landing the uppercuts, third round the uppercuts, and I thought this is the turning now, because I think Smith had quite a good start. Eubank started getting into it, and I thought he's going to start getting to him.
I didn't think he had a good start at all. I thought first and foremost the whole spectacle of the evening, from the undercard up to the main event was very good. Yeah. And then you saw the atmosphere shift up a gear when Liam Smith came in. And I was sitting there talking to some fellas, and there was a debate about whether Smith was going to get a hard ride in on the back of those press conference observations. They were childish, and I think they were beneath Liam Smith, and I made an observation about the fact that I thought he was better than that. Yeah. And the media will focus on that sort of stuff. But I was more interested in looking at the fights. I thought when he came into the arena, the atmosphere just went up a notch. And I thought when the fight started, I thought he started really slow, Liam Smith.
Yeah, he did.
And he got up, and he said himself after the third round, when Chris Eubank got uppercut, happy was the expression, that he got a bit of a bollocking off his trainer.
Yeah.
But I never saw that knockout coming. You and I spoke about it last week's show. I was erring towards Smith because my heart wanted it, but my head said, I think Eubank's picked a fight that he thinks he can win because he's seen him in the last fight where he wasn't particularly impressive. Maybe he thinks he's on the way down and he can pick him off there. But what I saw was, A, a very surprising finish, B, a complete lack of punch resistance from Chris Eubank that surprised me. And I was going to say to you, do you think that's down to the weight that he's now fighting at? I know 160 is a weight that he can get to, and he regularly brags about getting to that weight. He's had his best fights at 168, hasn't he?
Well, listen, look, 168 is when he boxed George Groves.
Yeah.
You know, 160, I think 160 is a comfortable weight for him, but we did he did look tight at the weight, and he did look tight at the weight, as he always does. You know, so do I think weight was an issue? The punch resistance definitely seemed to be not there. Yeah. He did seem to be getting rocks when he got hit.
A big shot, though, didn't he?
But what it was, Simon, I think the timing of the shot was what it was. It was an uppercut, and he followed him with a quick right hand as well, and that took everything away from him. And Smith's a great finisher, and he's got all that experience, and he never allowed him to recover. I wouldn't look too much into the weight side of things, if I'm totally honest. I think it was just a perfectly timed shot.
What do you make of Liam's observations that he made directly after the fight? And he said it again on other interviews, that every time he hit Eubank, he felt that Eubank was frightened of being hit, worried about hit. And he said that I had this underlying feeling that actually this guy don't like getting, nobody likes getting hit, right? But it's an occupational hazard, isn't it? Yeah. You've got to take it sometimes to get yourself in a position in a fight. But when you hear that, what do you make of that?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't read too much into that, because I don't think that Eubank's ever shown a history of that. And he's been in with the bigger guys, as I said, and you know, he's been hit hard by the big... I mean, Jules Groves is a phenomenal puncher, and he caught Eubanks clean a number of times. So, no, I wouldn't read into the fact that he maybe... But I'll tell you where that might have come from. Now, we know the stories beforehand about the sparring sessions. Yeah. We heard rumours that actually he'd floored Eubank with body shots, etc. So, it's that old psychological damage that I'm talking about, what we've talked about with Anthony Joshua in the past, that going into that, he would have remembered those sparring sessions, etc., etc. So forget about Eubanks and what he used to say about, I can't even remember sparring. Everyone remembers sparring sessions. So there may have been a bit of that to play, you know, that may have played a part of it.
I also think, not to cut across you, I also think that if you're going to fight an elite fighter, and Liam Smith's an elite fighter, he's been at the world level, he's fought the best fighters around, and there was an argument to say that he probably still might be just on the cusp of being elite. Sure. If you're Chris Eubank and your direction of travel is to keep fighting fighters that aren't at an elite level, I know Liam Williams is pretty good, but Liam Williams had to cut a lot of weight to get in that fight with Eubank and wasn't himself to some extent, and that's why he got knocked down so many times. Do you think, because I do, that if you don't fight elite fighters as a staple diet or fighters at the top end, when you do step in against a live one, there's a distinct possibility you're going to get what you got just there?
Well, that's that if you look at the history of Eubanks and his career, you know, when we go back to, you know...
Every time he steps up.
Yeah, Billy Joe Saunders when he steps up.
George Groves.
I mean, people could argue about the James DeGale, but James DeGale was totally gone then. He was finished and everything. So, you know, and the same with Arthur Abrahams, who was a former world champion, but looked old that night and was gone. So I think boxing's all about timing. And I think it was a calculated gamble from Eubank's team to take on Liam Smith going on that previous performance, and I think that they took a calculated gamble thinking that Eubanks would have that natural size and it would get to him, but Smith still proved that he's got a lot left in the tank, Where does he go from here? You know, Kell Brook's been talking about coming back, and Triple G as well. I think that should be the route, looking for a world title shot. Triple G, again about timing.
Well, we've got this conundrum, we've got this circle, we've got a square about the contractual obligations. You've got Eubank that put a clause in. That put the clause in because he was the A side of the argument in terms of commerciality. Because what Eubank has managed to achieve, and I admire him for it, because I've made a lot of observations about Chris Eubank Jr., which I think are fair. Because he talks about all the things he's going to do, and then every time he gets into a situation where he can do it, he either gets beat or the fight doesn't happen. And we get to hear about a lot of money, and we get to hear about pieces of meat, and we get to hear about him being 50% or 60%, who he's going to beat and how he's going to beat them, and where he lives and how big his house is. But when it comes to what we're really interested in is the idea that he wins fights. And we're in a situation where...
So he put that rematch clause in, didn't he? I wanted to ask you about that, actually, because I didn't quite understand about the rematch, because there's all sorts of ways that rematch clause can work. Can he go? Is it if he activates the immediate rematch, he has to box him next, or is there opportunity for him to go and box elsewhere?
I think that's a commercial negotiation, but I think the premise of it is, like most rematches, is the next fight out. And so with that in mind, I think that there's a feeling that he may call it. Yeah. I think that the rematch clause was put in there on the basis of a marginal decision, on a debatable decision. He's going to turn around and say that's debatable because he got caught with a good shot. It can happen to the best of them. That doesn't mean that Liam Smith's a better man than him. And of course, if they can make the fight happen at Anfield, which is on the bucket list of Liam Smith, it's going to be appealing. But I don't think there's going to be an appetite for it.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you think that? Well, that was a very conclusive victory. Yeah. I think that the rematch was only really would it
like
appeal to the public? You know, if it went,
on the basis of a Froch Groves outcome where Howard Foster stepped in, everyone goes, "Whoa, no, hang on a second."
Or a razor-type decision, or whatever.
And that's not happened here. Now, of course, Eubank will have us believe that that was just one of those punches and that's the end of the discussion. But I think it's more compelling than that. I think that if they fight again at 160, that Liam Smith will do the same thing again. I'm not necessarily assuming they'll knock him out, but he knows he can knock him out now.
Do you think the issues are weight?
Yeah, I do. And that's what I was talking to my new mate Carl about the idea that weight played a part in it, and how that would have played a part in it. Because
listen, I've got to say, by the way, once you told Cole that he was your favourite fighter of all time, he would have been agreeing with you with everything. Just letting you know that. Just letting you know that.
Don't take away my moment, right? Don't take away my moment because he wanted a selfie, and I'm gonna dine out on that for some time.
And exchange numbers?
No, I didn't.
Oh, really?
I'm not so presumptuous.
Would you like his number?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm fine. I'm sure I can find Froch if I need to. But the point is that looking at Eubank, I look at it now and say, where does he go? What is his opportunity? I think as a world level fighter, that I would argue that he was ever at anyway. He was in world title fights. I argue with the principle that he's a world level fighter.
World-class
He
fighter,
won't have that. And what I do admire about him, and I think he's the greatest self-promotionist that we've probably ever seen, because how you put yourself in a situation where arguably you're the biggest box office in this country behind Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, yet you haven't done anything to be there. You have to give chapeau to that. But I think the reality of it is now is this gravy train has run dry. He can get back in against Liam Smith, but I actually think the elegant thing to be doing, and I know elegant isn't the right word in terms of boxing, and people are going to say, well, what's elegance got to do with it? Let Liam Smith go on his journey of maybe getting another world title shot, because you had your fight, you got an opportunity, you got your clock cleaned, and it's time now potentially to let other people go on, because there's no debate here. And I also don't think, and you can tell me if you disagree with me, I don't think that he can beat Liam Smith at 160.
Sure. I just think that from a selfish point of view on the Eubank side, I just think that he'll activate that return, because there actually is nowhere else to go. So it's either go into the immediate rematch or retire.
But you know where it's going to go. You know where it's going to go, Spence.
Yeah, but I spoke to him, actually, him and Liam, interviewed them both through the week, and they both come up with the same outcome, that a loss would potentially put them into retirement.
Yeah, but that's easy. But
that's what I'm saying. So Eubanks, we know what he's like. He's all about the mind games and the self-belief, etc.
He's all about
he has to go back. Yeah, absolutely.
It's all about the money.
But he's a great salesman. That is for sure.
That's right.
He's a great salesman, hence why he's earning the money he is.
Yeah.
But I think he's put himself into the position with the things that he's said, everything, that he has to go and...
But you can convince some of the people...
He has to ignite that rematch
course. You can convince some of the people some of the time, but you can't convince all of the people all of the time. He's now moved into the territory of he's had done to him the thing that he said no one could do to him. Right? And he's had it done to him by a light middleweight.
Yeah,
so he's in a difficult position now. And now...
That's why he has to go to return in my eyes.
And but I think he loses that. So they'll look.
I'm not disputing that.
So then you're in a situation where where's the money in this, right? Where's the money in this? We know where the money in this is, right? And this is the carnival of horrors that we're going to have to discuss, which of course is the situation that's now manifested itself. Because up on social media, popped Conor Benn, with his observation up on social media or on digital media.
What did you make about his comments, by the way?
Oh, I think he should perhaps park it up a little bit.
I agree.
I think he should have redeemed himself before making sly comments about someone else. And whether he can redeem himself is a different matter.
It's sort of the comments that he'd made about the 2 rounds, etc. He would have won in 2 rounds, and I think that with the position he's in, he didn't need to do that.
Whether he believes that or not is a different matter. I think probably he should keep his trap sharp, because we're in a situation where I'm absolutely in the camp for Conor. I know people are much more robust about it. You might be, and I know Adam Cattrall was, about this is preposterous that he's even thinking about fighting. Well, I'm sorry. I love Tyson Fury, but Tyson Fury was in the same situation for castrated boar meat, right? And he got a retrospective ban. Canelo Alvarez, arguably the biggest bankable fighter in the world, has been redeemed. Alexander Povetkin been redeemed. So we can redeem Conor Benn.
I think the problem with all of the names that you just mentioned was that it was all the Nandrolo, and they were talking about contamination of meat, etc., etc. With the
but it was
it's all. You're totally right. It is all. But we're in a situation where you're going with the fertility drug. It's slightly different. I know it's still outcome. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying, but I just think that it has to be cleared up before we're talking about fighting, etc., etc.
They ain't going to clear it up, Spence. They're going to play the contamination card. They're going to get a retrospective ban in some shape or form.
Contamination on what?
Oh, who knows? WBC are suggesting they're not even banning him.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is if they're talking about the contamination, I'm going, how can it be contaminated? Of what?
Well, they've got a 270-page report into WBC about their reasons behind it, which is going to be legally smart arsery to try and find a way around it, right? Which is why they've engaged highfalutin lawyers to find their way through this, right? And it's not going to be an exoneration. It's going to be a muddying of the waters. And it's going to be a situation where a WBC, and unless we get, and it's all well and good people like Robert Smith, that speak to me on the QT about that they like my opinion. Then when they're doing a show with someone like Gareth Davies, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Until they get some certainty around drug testing and the qualifications behind VADA and UCAD and make it a unified situation. And that's the gift of people like the British Boxing Board of Control. You're going to get outcomes where people slide in between the cracks. But let's move away from the scenario where we go pull our hair out about Conor Benn and look at the fight, because I think that's the fight that he's going to take.
You think Eubank Benn next?
I do.
Really?
Because I think he gets paid. And Eddie Hearn's come out with his claptrap, and some of it I agree with, which is he hits harder, faster, and more spitefully.
Yeah, I saw that.
Than Liam Smith. I agree with the more spiteful and faster. I don't agree with the harder bit.
What weight would that would have to be up at 160? Surely Conor Benn can't get up to 160.
But that's the argument.
It's a 147 fighter.
And that's why I find myself in a circle that I can't square, because I'm making an argument for the fact that Eubank doesn't like fighting at 160, but I'm not sure that Conor Benn coming up to 160 is the same as Liam Smith coming up to 160 and being effective. But the reasons why Eddie Hearn's going on about it, because he can stick it on DAZN and start to get some juice around that ailing proposition with the rubbish content they're putting out. Yeah. But I do think all roads lead to that. For
a fighter to jump up 2 weight divisions, that's difficult for anyone. You know, I know the fight was made at 157 before, but we know how difficult it was. Look at the Eubank on Saturday. 160, he looked tight. 157, that's potentially dangerous. Well, it is dangerous, not potentially dangerous. So Ben would have to come up to 160, and I'm not sure. Is that realistic?
Well, no, he doesn't have to come up to 160. He's going to have to let Eubank get to 160.
Yeah, no, but
if he can fight
Eubank won't. I don't think he would go below 160 game.
Yeah, what I'm saying is it was 157 last time.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So what I'm saying is that the concession can be, if this fight goes on, if we have to watch that horror show, is that Eubank will make the concession on the basis of our fight at 160. You've just said, Conor, right, that he wouldn't last 2 rounds with you, so you ain't going to have any problem with him being at 160. I still argue that's the wrong weight for Chris Eubank, and I still think that we've seen and heard as much of Chris Eubank Jr. as we need to hear from about elite fights.
Look, we know that Kell Brook was at ringside, and he was talking about wanting the winner of that fight. Liam Smith obviously won the fight. Kell Brook, I know that's a conversation that is being had at the moment as well. Is that realistic? Can Kell beat Liam Smith?
I think it'd be a fascinating fight.
Really?
I do. Because if we can get Kell Brook back to where the level he was against Amir Khan, then I think it'll be a fascinating fight. I know that Kell's committed to retiring, and maybe he's finding it a little bit difficult in retirement and missing the buzz, which all of us do in different walks of our life when we do different things. But I think Liam, there's an element of these guys will want to make the big fights and get the opportunity. They want to get paid as well. And there's Triple G in the offing, and if I was Ben, I'd be trying to make Triple G.
Sure.
For Liam Smith, or take him back to light middleweight and let him fight Charlo.
Yeah. I think that, do you know what? I think the Kell Brook fight is appealing. I think it's a big fight, like you say, a big money spinner. And pending on the outcome of Triple G and when they can get that over the line, that's a possibility. Yeah.
All things being equal, what we saw, without a doubt, because I was excited about that. I was really excited about this fight. I felt the atmosphere was going to be electric, because when you go up to the north of England, especially as a southerner, you know you're going into a bear pit.
Sure.
You know, and I thought the undercard was brilliant.
Yeah.
And I felt that the feature event just took people's breath away.
Yeah.
Because none of us saw. We all felt that there was going to be a great fight in hand here, and we all felt there was going to be some theatre and showmanship. None of us saw a
career best knockout performance from me. That's what I believe.
Yeah, it took everyone's breath away, didn't it?
It did. He just, in that performance, I think you looked at that and you go, he knew what was on the line here. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, like you say, I think Eubank had options, win or lose. That there is options out there for him, but for Liam Smith, I think there was no options. It was win or retire.
I agree,
and that made him produce a career best performance.
And I'm a big admirer of the Smith family. I thought Paul Smith did a brilliant interview on Friday after the presser on Thursday, where they'd said these silly things about one another. And I thought, by the way, Chris Eubank was really elegant after the fight.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I thought when he turned around and said that I have regretted some of the things I said. He went up in my admiration tenfold. And I also thought that he did diminish Liam in the press conference when he came back at him about the cheat observation, because I thought that was clever thinking.
Yeah.
But I also thought that Paul Smith was absolutely brilliant in an interview he did on Friday, where he talked about the people that Eubank's got around him. He said, everybody in Liam Smith's corner is here because they want to be here.
Of course.
I'm his brother. I don't get paid by him. I'm not getting paid for by Sky. I'm not getting paid for by anybody. Everything we say, everything we do is for the betterment and best interests of Liam. Go look at the other fella and the people he's got around him. And Paul just talked about all the different aspects of the fight game and boxing and his experiences and his brother. And I thought to myself, why isn't this guy on more broadcasts? Because he's absolutely brilliant. So I'm really pleased, because I like the Smith family. I think they're a proper boxing family with the right sentiments.
What's your observation on Roy Jones Jr. quickly, actually? What do you think of the relationship with
influence?
What the relationship with him and Eubank, like, you know, because you know, do you think it's been a pro or a negative for him?
His fighter just got knocked out by a light middleweight.
Yeah, well, this is
because he wants to, because Eubank
stylistically trying to change someone late in their career as well.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, the argument is, how much is Chris Eubank listening to? How much time is he spending with him? And how much of an influence is he on Chris Eubank against what is Chris Eubank's best style? I don't think it's a winning formula. I think it's a flash for cash. It's just, I'm no doubt Roy Jones can impart wonderful wisdom because he's been there, seen it, and done it, and was one of the elite fighters of any generation. I just don't think there's been much material benefit for Chris Eubank, because the outcome is you got beat in a fight. You've allowed him to potentially take a fight against Conor Benn, which is all about money. So you've not got that much influence over him. You've allowed him to go into a fight with Liam Smith and fight in a certain way that gets him knocked out in the fourth round. So I can't say that's a winning formula, can you?
No. Listen, we've got to touch on Richie Riakporhe as well. Yeah. Have to touch on that. I mean, what a performance. A lot on the line. Potential banana skin against Krzysztof Glowacki, and he delivered. Is he ready for a world title?
Yes. He thinks he is, doesn't he? We saw him.
Well, I think he is.
Yeah, I do too.
I think that.
I do too.
He showed great patience. He took his time. Like I say, dangerous opponent, being a former two-time world champion, heavy-handed, and he just took his time. And the finish for me was sensational.
Absolutely. He got him going in the first round, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, and Richard came in, and it was great to hear Glad All Over, the old Palace song, echoing around the AO Arena. Brought me back. Trip down amnesia lane. But I'm obviously a big fan of Richard's. I want to get some T-shirts of him. He promised me some T-shirts, and he hasn't bloody given them to me.
Another one, yeah?
Another one, yeah. But I was sitting next to a guy that mentors him. So he was talking about Richard's mentality. And I was
He's
saying,
a great guy, great attitude, by the way.
And I was saying, does he believe in himself enough? And he goes, well, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
And we talked, didn't we, you and I, about the nature of this fight and who this guy's fought previously and what they'd done to him. And you thought that Riakporhe would put him away, and probably put him away moderately early, 4s and 5s, right? And I thought he might go in 4, but he went in 3, and he did it in a really convincing way.
Do you know what it was, Simon? Like, being around him all week and like just watching his development, he's always, in my own opinion, I think there's always been a missing piece of the jigsaw. I think there's that, and that's self-belief. And I think that seems to be installed in what he's got now. The punch power is phenomenal, and he's going to take someone out straight away. But in his performances now, I think that shows that confidence is there. He believes that he can go on and win world titles now, and I think that's where we're seeing the massive improvements.
He called it out, and I want him to. And I think this is his year. Yeah. I think he'll get his shot this year. Which one of them? He called them all out, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
He called them all out.
But Akoli is a great fight. They're under the same.
Contractually, they've got a problem there.
Yeah. But that is a fight that hopefully, if they can sort that out, and
he called them all out
rather than later. Yeah, that's the belief. Yeah. I think that. Yeah, I believe that this year is his year and he wins a world title.
I don't see where else he needs to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see that
no more
at
warm-ups.
all. I think he's ready to have a shot.
Yeah.
And I think he's earned that, and I hope he gets it. Right, Spence, we'll get into one of the subjects we want to get into this week is obviously Yarde Beterbiev coming up in a minute. But I understand you bumped into Tyson Fury talking about his brother, Tommy, fighting that bleeding YouTuber. So
listen,
go on.
Look,
inform me.
It's always fun when you speak to Tyson Fury because you never know what you're going to get. Yep. And it was a great interview.
Well, I don't think it's been officially announced, but I hear an announcement imminent. So they're finally getting it on. They're going to throw down, and the two YouTube people get to battle it out for the king of the YouTubers.
Well, listen, Jake Paul's been very vocal about wanting to fight Tommy. The fight hasn't materialised. Now we finally get it. It's going to be good.
Listen, it's going to be fun, and I expect Tommy to chin him. And if he doesn't, he can stay in Saudi Arabia.
Is it a fight you thought would end up in Saudi, by the way?
it's a fight I couldn't care less it ends up on the moon. But insofar as there is going to happen, you can't be surprised, can you? Because
this is business. Let's have it
business,
right. It's business.
And there's another avenue of influence and revenue generation. So whilst I'm looking at the Saudis and the Middle Eastern guys wanting all the big fights and all the undisputeds and all that sort of stuff, in the YouTube world, which is another generation of influence that the Middle Eastern guys can have control over, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they?
I saw an interview you done actually with, talking about YouTube boxing, and how you said there is a market for it and there is a place for it.
Yeah.
The Saudis are obviously showing a lot of interest in boxing at the moment, and maybe just another little avenue they want to go down, because I think YouTube boxing is growing and it's not going away. Let's be fair.
Yeah, albeit I wish it would. But that's like I've said and like we've said, there's a seat for every arse, isn't there? So we've got to watch sport the way we want to watch it. We've got to watch entertainment the way we watch it. Boxing's entertainment. My objection is my objection is well rehearsed, which is that the people using boxing to leverage YouTube, to leverage their own position, and also the idea that it's going to be the next generation of boxing fans. I don't subscribe to that view. I think that's a crock.
Listen, no, I'm not swallowing that. Like you say, there's a market for it and a place for it.
You're neck deep in it. You're getting paid somewhere.
I'm not, mate.
I'm too enthusiastic.
What I'm saying is I'm not enthusiastic about it, but I don't dislike it. There's a lot of people jumping on the back of, YouTube boxing is a disgrace. Who wins
this god awful spectacle anyway?
I'm going to go Tommy Fury. I've got to say, speaking to a lot of people through the week actually, when we was talking up in Manchester, there is a lot of the boxing fraternity that think that Jake Paul wins. I don't quite see it like that. I just think that Tommy Fury...
Can I ask the boxing fraternity or the YouTube fraternity?
No, boxing fraternity.
Okay.
Boxing, your mate Cole Froch, but I'm surprised you didn't know that. But did you not talked about that?
No, I hadn't spoken about that.
No, I'm surprised.
We were speaking about you. It didn't take long.
No, I think you was talking about how much you liked him. That's what it was. Anyway, so let's move on with that. Yeah, so a lot of people believe that. I think it's a lot of people question the commitment of Tommy Fury in the boxing game. Yeah. Going into this fight, he will commit himself because of what's on the line, and that's why I think that he'll pull out the performance that's needed.
And anyone who wants to watch it should be committed, full stop. Anyway, up and onward. Okay, Spence, look, here's a fight coming up this weekend that I'm really excited about, and I think it's been a great start to the year with Smith and Eubank Jr., but this was the one that really got me excited when Frank Warren announced it, which is Anthony Yarde getting in the ring with Artur Beterbiev. Yeah. I think that this is a phenomenal fight. It's a division that we've got heritage in, going back to John Conte. We've got good fighters in this division coming up behind Anthony Yarde. Yeah. But I think this is a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant fight. I'm so excited about it.
Do you know what I am as well? And Beterbiev's considered widely as the monster of the division, but one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. 18-0, 18 KOs.
18 knockouts.
You look at his resume, and it's very, very impressive. There's something inside me, Simon, that says, like, he's just turned 38. Stylistically, we saw the Callum Johnson fight. Callum Johnson floored him with a massive left hook. So he can be hurt. And I think stylistically, actually, Beterbiev, who walks forward and, sort of straight lines, he's a bit better than that, to be fair, but he does come forward in a lot of pressure. I think that stylistically, Yarde could be in a position here where he could pull off a huge upset, probably one of the biggest upsets of modern times, but I've not written Yarde off on this one. I think that he might do it,
I'm a great admirer of Anthony Yarde. I really like him. I was so impressed with him when he sort of righted the wrong of the Lyndon Arthur fight that was attributed to the lockdown, the lack of atmosphere, but he was very lacklustre. But in the second fight, he was like a man possessed. Yeah. And I look at this fight with Beterbiev, 18 wins, 18 knockouts. I look at how Callum Johnson knocked him down, and then got finished off himself 2 rounds later. I look at some of his previous fights, and whilst he's incredibly heavy-handed, and hits hard with both hands, I think Anthony Yarde can do some damage. I don't think you can stand and trade with him. I don't think you can stay in the pocket.
There's something right. A fight that's going to be over by the halfway point, I believe. Yeah. Because I think that Yarde doesn't move. Look, they're bigger guys, and I don't think there's enough foot movement. Yarde likes to just create space, and he's a great counter-puncher, and that's where you can see Beterbiev walking onto one, because Yarde has got a great boxing IQ. He throws shots from good angles. He's not just... Beterbiev's more sort of straightforward, sort of, Eastern European type fighter.
But Anthony can't stand and trade with him.
Oh, no, he won't. He'll just... Yeah. He creates the space, Yarde. What he does is, he holds his feet, and that he comes off on angles, and he likes to create space just enough to let that shot go.
Because he was like a hurricane against Lyndon Arthur.
Yeah.
He came out like a man possessed. And I don't mean possessed with, with irresponsible feelings.
Sure.
I mean, someone that was possessed with determining to correct the idea that Lyndon Arthur was a better fighter than him, and he just blew him away.
Yeah, well, I think with the Arthur fight, he knew that he couldn't allow him what he'd done in the first match was that space. He needed to close the space, so he come out very fast, close the space. With this one, he's got a box totally different. He has to create the space because Beterbiev will be in his face. But I think he's got the ability to do that. I really do, and that's why I'm going. Do not write this kid off because everybody pretty much has.
No, I listen. Who am I to suggest that my opinion is worthy of superseding other people in this industry that will know more than I do? I've just got a feeling that Anthony Yarde has more than a chance.
Sure.
38. I know that this guy's beaten everyone that's around, and there's a potential unification against Dimitri Bivol, which will ultimately put the light heavyweight division into a situation where they've got a unified champion, and there'll be lots of money for that. And of course, Dimitri Bivol's reputation has gone through the ceiling after Canelo Alvarez. We weren't too enamoured about him when he fought Greg Richards, were we?
Yeah.
And now we are.
It was a fight there, Richards, that I thought up until about 9.
He could have won.
He could have won.
But I also think with Anthony, he learned a lot from that fight against Kovalev.
Yeah.
And will come into this fight in a completely different mindset. And I'm, it's one of those where you go, don't blink.
Yeah,
I think.
Oh, I agree.
I agree. But I do think if Anthony approaches this fight in the right way, doesn't stand and trade, doesn't get drawn into a certain type of fight, and doesn't stay in the pocket too long, I think he can do some serious damage to Beterbiev. And when I watched Callum Johnson, with no disrespect to him, you wouldn't have expected to have made the impression on Beterbiev that he did.
Yeah, you're right.
I think that if Anthony Yarde, and I think Frank Warren, I know Frank's his promoter, so he's going to say this, but I was reading something that Frank had written about. He really, the fighter really believes in himself for this fight.
Of course.
And B, Frank feels that we're potentially on the cusp of seeing one of the biggest upsets. Going back to Lon Hannigan versus Donald Curry.
I'm with Frank. Do you know why? Because Yarde's single punch power is so heavy-handed.
Yeah.
And the style that Beterbiev fights, I agree with you, Simon. He's there to be hit. Yeah. And if Yarde hits you, 9 times out of 10 you stay hit.
And again, for me, it's one of those fights that, these are the things, this is the fights that we should get to see. More of this, more of these sort of fights, making these sort of fights, because boxing is so hot at this moment in time. There's so many people that are interested in it. It's generating so much heat, and some of it for good reasons, some of it for bad reasons. You get the usual, culprits and suspects that are ultimately going to create the news, which is Anthony Joshua, who he's going to fight, what Tyson Fury's doing, X, Y, Z. But there's also this proliferation of great fights that are coming down the tubes. Lee Wood's coming up next against Mauricio Lara. But this fight, to me, the moment it was made, and I think Anthony had come in the studio and the show that I do with Jim White talking about this last year. And it was Beterbiev who pulled out, wasn't it? Because they were trying to make it in October, weren't they?
Yeah.
And now you've got it in January at the beginning of the year. I think this is going to be an absolute stormer of a fight. Yeah. And my heart wants Anthony Yarde to win. I think it's a big mountain for him to climb, but I think that he's got the ability to do it.
I do. I'm going to put my neck on the line, and we've got it live and exclusive on talkSPORT, by the way, as well.
You're doing a commentary, right?
It's going to be, look, that is going to be, for me, some of these fights that you have to do commentary on, for me, doing commentary on that fight is going to be easy because someone I believe is going to get knocked out, and I think Yarde might pull off one of the biggest victories, biggest upsets.
I'm going on Saturday, and I have the added benefit of bringing my Michelle with me. So
brilliant!
You're going
to introduce.
So that's the end of my good time.
You're going to introduce Michelle to me, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll be fearful of that, Spence. Right, Spence. That's it for episode 10 of Talk Boxing. You lot out there, don't forget to keep liking and subscribing. Keep leaving your questions in the section below for our question and answer show on Thursdays. And don't forget, you get to listen to Beterbiev Yarde free on talkSPORT on Saturday night.